David, you are tapped into all of the condo market as much or more than any other agent I know, not just in Southeast Miami, but all the way
Thank you.
Up north. What are you hearing from buyers right now who are looking in Miami, whether they're local, they're international, and they're looking at condos?
So thank you for that. That's very kind of you to say. First and foremost, my optics are very specific to what I'm experiencing, so I don't try to extrapolate and assume that my experiences are exactly like everyone else's. What I have seen is that I think there was comments made about buyers being a little bit more hesitant coming through, and what I found is that I find them circling a lot. They're kind of coming through, they're looking at property, they're circling back. The interesting thing I found is that they're not going away. It's not like they're suddenly deciding not to buy, they're just like circling planes waiting to land. And the commonality that I've found, whether they are coming from Europe or North America, or whether they're even locals looking to reposition themselves from one property to another, they're looking for that right property. And they just don't feel ready to settle for anything that isn't quite right. And there's such a severe lack of that high caliber product at what they consider to be digestible prices. If they find it and it's really special, it's at a price that's very hard for them to digest. And whether that's in Boca or whether that's down in Coconut Grove or in Brickell, I will say that in some markets I'm seeing certain different, because demographics vary. I mean, Coconut Grove, for example, I think its success has largely to do with the fact that there's a large migratory aspect to people coming into that market. It's not as much of a second home market. So they're really looking to put their base, and because of that, equally the sellers are also base sellers. So it's their home, and they're having a harder time shifting out from those high numbers. So, it's like, where do I go next? This story, I think, is systematic through the market. Some markets a little easier, maybe Brickell, but other markets that we're seeing, surprisingly enough, although we see, on paper, thousands and thousands of units on the market, new stuff coming in every day, stuff that really we look at and go, wow, that's amazing, I've got to share that. That's harder and harder to find.
Part of today is getting some sound bites, and I'm going to steal digestible prices. I love that. Digestible prices. So, Allison, you've been selling the Grove for a while, and you've seen this amazing transformation in the Grove, not just as prices have gone up 145%, but as the Grove has revitalized. What are you hearing from buyers? What are you seeing out there?
Well, I actually represent more sellers, the ones that want to sell for top dollar. And there's no comps, and there's, I've just learned about all these stats from you. So I'm like thrilled I came here and learned, and my sellers want a price. They don't care how you get it. And I've learned a lot from them, because there is going to be a buyer that is going to get the home. It might not be the first one, it might not be the second, but it's all emotions that I've noticed where almost all my sales come from. It's also the relationships with all the other agents. Someone will call me and say, what do you have in the Grove? What do you have at Grove at Grand Bay? What do you have at Grosvenor? What do you have? So I do tend to do a lot of off-market deals. And I think having the relationships with other agents and us all coming together and help each other, that makes it a very successful real estate business, your relationships.
I couldn't agree more. In the Grove, we have Mr. C's just
had a listing there.
Starting
Beautiful.
To close. I reached out for you for an off-market, just like you said.
Yeah.
Vita's under construction. The Four Seasons is breaking ground in Brickell. We've got the St. Regis, 1428. The new Mandarin Oriental is coming on Brickell Key. Baccarat, Mercedes-Benz. There's a gazillion others. In downtown, we've got the Aston Martin, the Waldorf, 11, and others. So, Jose, what's driving all of this development in Southeast Miami? Which are your favorite new projects? Who's buying all of these new luxury condos? How much of these buyers are investors versus primary residence for second homes, and finally, how do you market and sell new development condos differently than resale condos?
That's a great question. As we said previously, Miami is an international city, so all developers, they are competing among themselves. Everybody wants to have their brand in Miami. We are seeing all those brands in Mandarin, we're seeing Dolce & Gabbana, we're seeing Four Seasons, Aston Martin. We are seeing very important firms, they want to be here. Cipriani, it's about lifestyle. So if you are a fan of some brand like Dolce & Gabbana, you want to have a piece of that and call that your home. And most of these buyers right now are end users. That's a big change that we had before, because for many owners, makes sense to call that their home, and they want to see is the movie, not the picture. They say, okay, I plan to be here for 20 years, 10 years. So if they are not long-term short-term investors, they are long-term investors. So that's their goal, and they're coming from everywhere. They're coming from New York, they're coming from Latin America, they're coming from Europe, Asia. So as you know, Miami is a melting pot. We have people from all over the world, and they love to be here.
So David, I follow you closely.
Likewise.
And you do a lot of insider condo tours on your super information-packed website. So you're tapped into all of these new developments. Which are your favorites? How many buyers are you getting from your website and your YouTube and these buyer tours? And what are people looking for in these new condos?
Great question. So we get somewhere around 4,000 registrations, buyer registrations a year through the site. A lot of new construction inquiries. My favorites, I really like the Mandarin. I think it's a great product.
I do too.
I think that, I've done these studies, and resort product is always the one that wins, whether it's Four Seasons and Surfside, or whether if you go back and remember how Continuum did so well with that kind of resort environment, it's the resort level products at scale that do really, really well. I do like Mandarin. I do like Vita on Groval. I think that it's a very hard question sometimes to ask because it's horses for horses. There are so many different products, and it depends what your client needs and wants, so it's really hard to say, right, this is the best for everyone. It's very subjective. It's been really fascinating to see. We've had inquiries from literally every country I can think of. Like every single country, people will come in. Of course, we've got, a lot of the New York crowd, California crowd, but less than geographic. I think it's more about the psychology, the demographic kind of profile of these people. Psychologically, they're all long on Miami. Buyers of new construction are far less sensitive to interest rates because they're looking at 4 or 5 years from now, and they're looking at the long-term growth of the city, and they're looking at the expansion, and they're noticing the big companies moving in, and the population change, the population replacement. So their psychology is very much long-term. And what I'm seeing is a lot of primary buyers, people where it's going to be, their primary home. Surprisingly, there's been a lot of wealth that's been created in the last 5 years, and now I think we're seeing I'm experiencing a lot of people who are selling their companies or cashing out big on different businesses that they have, and they're coming in pretty heavy, and I think that accounts for some of the big sales that we've seen. At the same time, the lower entry-level investors recognize the growth of Miami, and they're like, how can I get a foothold? What can I get? Which is surprisingly harder to do than it used to be. Getting something under 2 million might sound obnoxious, but it's surprisingly not as easy as you think it is. So, yeah.
So Allison, 3,000 a foot for the Four Seasons in the Grove. What has changed so much over the Grove over the past 5, 10, 15 years, and where do you see the Grove going?
People love the urban lifestyle, the walkability, the shopping, the restaurants, the cafes, movies. Just not eating their car. There's just so much in the little town of Coconut Grove. And people want easy lifestyle. So a lot of my buyers that I have, they come to me for condos because they travel, they want to lock up and go. They want security, they want the amenities, just easy living. And they're willing to pay the price for the quality of life. You know, I wish all of our buyers were like that, but I have been blessed that for some reason these kind of buyers come through or recommended to me and they're ready to buy. I've been pretty fortunate.
So Jose, you saw the chart where condo inventory is accumulating quickly, even at the low end, especially at the higher and higher ends. And condos are sitting on the market longer and longer, especially some of the older buildings. I'm sure a lot of your sellers are getting antsy. What are you hearing from your sellers? What are you telling them? And how are you navigating this current environment to be successful?
Yeah, the market, the inventory is increasing and the prices, the market is slowing down. But people need to see the movie completely, the cycle. There is always a cycle in every economic industry, and real estate is no exception. So if you look back to 2006, as you mentioned, or 2015, or during the pandemic, okay, they always say, you want this amount of money for your condo, but how much do you pay? Oh, in 2022, 2021, what's this price? Well, if you want that, you need to wait. So it depends. Every customer is different. If they really want to sell right now, they need to adjust their prices or be open to offers. Because I think that, if you want to realize a big capital gain, a big profit, you need to either wait or be adjusted to the current market.
So Allison, you and I almost got a deal done at the Grosvenor House. Yeah.
That's an interesting story.
That's why I'm asking.
Is that why I'm on this panel?
It's one of the reasons.
That was interesting.
And you got them to reduce, which I had pushed you to do, but we made an offer before you hit the market, and it was early. You got them to reduce, and then you immediately put under contract. How are you having those conversations with sellers that start at extremely ambitious numbers, make me move prices,
Exactly.
to get them down? Not a ton. They didn't drop a lot. They dropped just to the next level, and bam,
This
under
is why I'm
contract.
exhausted. Most of my clients want to start out super high. They don't care what the stats are. I know I said that before. But my younger self probably wouldn't have taken the listing. My older self has said, someone's going to come right behind me and list it at the price they want. So I might as well do this. Even though I dislike doing that so much because I feel like you're doing a disservice. So I tell them, okay, I'll list it at this, but just letting you know, kind of what you said, I can't promise. There's not any comps for this. And we start, but I let them know in a month, if I don't see activity, we need to reduce. And with that specific sale, Brian and I, he got in before I listed it. And what's interesting, we sold it at this $50,000, a little more than our first offer. First offers are always the best,
Would have
right?
come up.
Like, I know, but you had a special buyer and I had a special seller. The seller didn't care about selling.
And mine didn't care about buying.
Exactly. And you know why I sold for $50,000 more? Because I knew we were going to see that close sale. I had to get it a little higher.
So, David, parting words, condo inventory up, lots of new development, Long Miami, so many great projects, so many great submarkets. Where do you see the market going for the next 6 months, 5 months this year into next year?
I haven't found it a bad year. This year so far, actually, we've been blessed. It's actually been pretty good. I think now the summer is coming to an end. We're going to see more inventory coming in of better quality. I've already just come back from vacation, already had a bunch of calls from clients who said, yeah, I'm ready, let's get things going. So I think as long as we have some good quality product coming into the system, we're going to be fine. The buyers are absolutely there. They're there. And we just have to work our sellers what I do think is going to continue, which is something that's happened through this year, I think for a lot of us have talked about that, it's been mentioned, is the off-market deals. And the great thing about this room is everyone together is the ability to network and talk. I feel we've done more off-market transactions this year than I can remember doing last year. And I think that's one thing that buyers always feel like they're looking for, I don't know, a deal or something special. And I think that off-market product affords that kind of chance and that feeling that the buyer gets, that they're getting something that other people won't get. And I think that we'll continue to see a lot more off-markets. We don't have a lot of inventory. I don't see it so easy to get more inventory in. I mean, the Grow, for example, and the high-level product, it's really hard to, we're constantly having conversations. I lose track of how many chats that I might have had, with Allison and Jessica, with Lani, with anybody at the panel, and we've talked about, what have you got? I'm looking for a unit in Park Grove. I'm like, yeah, me too, and 50 other people. It's like the same story. So I think if we can get some of that going, I think we're starting to see some of the sellers starting to bring down as well. I think that'll get more realistic. I'm seeing that definitely in the urban core. We're seeing a lot of reductions coming in at the luxury end. And it'll be interesting to see how some of the new products that are just opening, how they do, because I think a lot of those owners are not end users. They bought it as investments. So we'll see how much product we get through from Mr. C and other new buildings that are opening their doors. Aston Martin's a good example in downtown. We just did a deal a couple of days ago for a contract for something there. I'm bullish about the next year.
So all you guys who raised your hands that you've got buyers who can't find something that they want to buy, and just heard from two panelists that they're doing more off-market deals now than they've done in recent years. And part of our job isn't just to sit around and look at the hot sheet and put a listing in the MLS and wait for the calls to come. You got to pick up the phone and get old-fashioned, start banging the phone, talking to everybody in this room and in your companies. These are why relationships in this industry and right now especially are so important. There are off-market deals happening every day that a lot of us don't even know about because we're not working our network like the people who are succeeding. How much money do you think you made this year on off-market deals?
Just in the last month alone, I think we probably closed about 25 to 30 million.
That's a reason enough? Like, we should just stop right now? That's reason enough to start working the damn phone.
There's so many ways I'd like to add to that. I think there's so many ways to communicate to each other, even if you kind of like DM someone or you put it on your Instagram, say, hey, I'm looking for this. Send an email out, get everyone on the group and just say, hey, I'm looking, because it's surprising how many people in the room, I'm sure, will have product that they have that's off market, that the seller said, you know what, bring me a buyer and I'll sell. And how many of us constantly, we get a buyer, the phone goes, that buyer says, this is what I'm looking for. We go to the MLS and we're like, I got nothing.
I remember we didn't have social media in the past 10 years. Yeah. Before that, we didn't have social media, so now we have so many ways to communicate.
Thank you guys. Amazing insights on the condo market. Really appreciate your time.